Nate's here, audio only at the moment, and he will join video as soon as possible, just for the record. One thing, just for clarification, when we get to 530, 550 Turnpike, we may have to adjust their position in the agenda. We will do so at the time. They have a planning and zoning hearing at the same time. So we're just trying to juggle the two, and we'll do our best to keep them as close as possible to their place, but we may have to push them down in the agenda. So first up tonight is 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way. This is a notice of intent for replace a failed septic system for a condominium complex. I believe we have Josh White for Jacobs Driscoll Engineering.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
All right. Perfect. All right. I'll pull up the plans and share my screen. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So for the record, Josh White from Jacobs Driscoll Engineering. And we have prepared this notice of intent on behalf of Dynamic Management Services, which is the management company that manages this condo complex, which is at the very back of Indian Cove Way, which is off 138. There's two buildings associated with this existing septic system, a total of 20 units. And this is our proposed septic repair plan for this. You can see for Concom's jurisdiction, the BVW is along here in the green line, and then to the south is the same line continuous, and there's also a intermittent stream, pretty well-defined bank there as well. And then you can see the 100-foot buffer in orange, and the 200-foot riverfront is in brown, and the 100-foot riverfront is also in brown. So as you can see, most of this work is almost entirely within the existing pavement, which is their parking lot and loading and access areas for the two buildings. We've got the new pump chamber and septic tank over here, and then the new field over here. There's a small portion of clearing that's going to have to be done just to expand the system a little bit. So like I said, it's all within the existing impervious area. There's no work proposed within the 50-foot buffer. It's all between the 50 and the 100. And right now the grading is within, I believe that's 66 feet of the BVW. That's to the limit of work. And then the septic system itself is about 90 feet away. Just as a note, just so everybody knows where we're at with the Board of Health, we're still working with them, getting comments from them. So this is going to be an ongoing process for a little bit. Just a little back and forth on how big we can design this system. They don't quite agree with what we feel is suitable for this. We're just trying to make it last as long as possible because there's been multiple failures on this site in a short amount of time. As far as just to kind of give you guys a total like area of limit of work, it's about 33,000 square feet is what we're looking at roughly for the limit of work. About 3,500 square feet is within the 100-foot buffer. Most of it is outside. As far as the BVW is concerned, the 100-foot riverfront, there's about 900 square feet within that, which is mostly just tree clearing, just to expand the system and grading in here. And then 100 to 200 foot riverfront is where the majority of the work is. It's about 27,000 square feet. We got a couple comments from Jennifer in her staff report. She can touch on this in a second, but we submitted in the wetland sketch that we got from our wetlands consultant that we used for this site. So it kind of put things in proportion of how far the different areas are away from the limit of work. So I believe the comment about the potential vernal pool, I believe that's been addressed by saying it's not within that area. And then once we revise the plan, we're going to add the markers to the plans at basically the edge of the lawn areas as requested. So as soon as we get as soon as we get comments from the Board of Health, we'll address them all at once and submit them back to Concom and Board of Health at the same time. So I think that's pretty much it. I'll take some questions if you guys have any. I'll leave it to Jennifer to take over from here.
Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you. I think we had some minor changes to the notice of intent application. Did you give us those revised pages yet?
We should have sent them over.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we sent hard copies. We might have just uploaded it, but if not, we will.
Okay. So can you say the riverfront area again? Because that's only under the bylaw, not under the state law, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Can you give me the total and then inner and outer, please?
So the total would be about 28,500.
Okay.
And then the 100 foot is about 900. And then the 100 to 200 is about 27,500, roughly.
Okay, thanks. The question was about how close was the vernal pool. It was mentioned in their reports, but not shown on the plan. So Josh did answer that. Thank you. It's outside of jurisdiction. And I did notice a small amount of erosion on the lower right corner of the proposed system. So do you guys have any comments on that? Is it
right around here?
Move to the right a little bit more?
A little further to the right.
Yep. It's like right in the corner and it heads right out to the right-hand side.
Okay. Yeah. Well, on the revised plan, I think we'll add maybe like a 2 foot gravel strip or riprap strip just before it starts dropping down on the slope. That'll help filter out anything and that should take care of any potential erosion or sediment issues.
Okay, so when you put that on the plan, if you would please make sure you have a detail as well.
Yep, we will.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
So any questions from the commission before I jump in? Anybody else? Okay, so the question I have, I guess, Josh, so this this essentially is in the same place as the existing failed system, correct?
Yes, you can see the existing chambers below the system. Yes.
So is there a potential that the Board of Health would cause you to, yeah, I can see it underneath there. Yeah. So is there potential that the Board of Health is going to make you have further incursion into the wetland buffer?
No, it's actually the opposite.
Okay.
So when we started this, we basically we went into the units and did some investigating as far as if there were garbage grinders and stuff like that that the Board of Health would look at.
Yeah.
And also we looked at bedrooms just to, so we knew exactly what we're designing, because in Easton, the condos, they're all 1 bedroom, but I mean, everybody uses a loft as a bedroom. So the issue with the Board of Health is they're concerned that we're basically doubling the design flow. So they're concerned that somebody's going to figure out that they have extra capacity, which they don't. So we're working with them, and we're going to reduce the system footprint to about 150% of the design flow. So it's going to shrink down a little bit. So I'm hoping in this area, I'm not sure exactly how much we'd need to reduce it to get to that 150%, but I'm going to guess it's probably 1 or 2 rows of chambers. So maybe everything will just shift back a little bit. So that's our hope.
Okay, well, that's good. That was the question I really had, I guess.
Yeah, because the existing pavement and the existing system's way up here. So it's just all extra capacity that we're adding. So it's still
there's really no place else on this property where you can do this. So I mean,
no, and I don't even know how many different buildings there are, but each kind of lot has a couple buildings, and they're all situated like this. I mean, It's all kind of the same situation.
Right.
So there's not a lot of space, and under the parking lot is really the only option to do it.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions from commission? Okay, I have a little bit of a problem here, so hang on a second. Any public comment for 41 to 60 Indian Cove Way? Oh my. I'm down to 1 screen, you guys. I'm really struggling. Struggle bus now. Okay, so seeing no public comment on 4160. Jennifer, given that they have to change the plans, do we continue this, or can we condition that for having updated? If the only potential is they're going to make this smaller, I don't necessarily have an issue. But
Josh, do you know when you are before the Board of Health again?
So it doesn't have to go to a meeting. So we just finally got a hold of them today. We've been waiting for them to get back to us on comments. So I figured it might be easiest, just less paperwork to continue it. And then once we submit, we'll just go to the next meeting, and then it can be voted on then, just instead of closing it and then.
Yeah, I certainly think that creates less paperwork for our staff. There's no question that yes, it's another 5 minutes in another meeting sometime, but staff, we're saving them hours of time. So I think it's I think it's better for us to continue it. So so why don't we continue to our next meeting and hope that that's when it happens?
Yeah, that's good with me.
Okay, so motion to continue 4160 Indian Cove Way to July 11th.
Second.
Caulfield's Benson second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rothman, aye.
Andy, aye.
Okay, so 5-0 for the continuance. So next up is 45 to 63 Village Street. This is again a notice of intent for a septic system upgrade for a single family home is what it says, but I don't think so.
That doesn't look right.
Just before I get too far here, just for the record, abutters notifications have been received on all the new permits this meeting. So I just did want to, for the public record, have that noted. So anyway, this is a note of intent for a septic system upgrade.
All right, so again, Josh White, Jacobs Fiscal Engineering. This is a notice of intent for a septic repair for Southeastern Property Management, which is the management company for the Village Street condominium complex, which is just south of the one we just talked about. Again, there's kind of similar situation as the last one. There's two condo unit buildings. This one's slightly smaller. There's only 10 units. And then you can see the BVW to the south here. And this is the entrance off Village Street here. It's just a driveway. And then towards the north, you've got you can see the two sides of the intermittent stream. That's the one for the other project, Indian Cove. And then intermittent stream on our side, as well as the BVW, which wraps all the way around and goes way far back on this side and connects back over to here. So this same sort of thing, 10 units. They've actually got 3 existing leach fields under the parking lot here. All 3 separate pump chambers, all separate here. In this scenario, just like the last one, common collection line to a septic tank and pump chamber over here, pumping up to the system over here under the parking lot. We've got the sediment controls over here on the low side, same thing up here. This is about 30 feet from the BVW, and the corner of the system here is about 50 feet. So again, all of work is basically within the existing impervious area under the parking lots or sidewalks, except for the tanks up here, which are going under a grass area, which is actually where their first system is located. So that's at least 2 other septic systems that have been repaired here. Yeah, I mean, same sort of thing. This one's got we're still over designing it, but it's not we're not doubling it like the other one. So the Board of Health didn't have too much of a concern on this one. We just want to wait till they do their full review. So just for numbers on this one as well, the total limit of work is about 25,000 square feet. There is some work within the 50-foot buffer, which is basically just connecting this unit to the main line and installing a vent, 2 vents actually, for the system and the D-box. That's the extent of the work within the 50-foot. And as far as Riverfront, there's about, in the 100-foot Riverfront, it's about 5,400 square feet. And the 100 to 200 is about 19,000 square feet. So a majority of the work. But again, it's all under existing impervious. Same comments from Jennifer on the last one. When we revise the plan, we'll add the markers to the plan as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Do you have anything else to add, Jennifer?
I didn't have any additional comments after that. Thank you.
Any comments or questions from the commission? None from me. So just to let the record note that Nate Crossman is now on video as well. So any public comment for 45 to 63 Village Street? Seeing none. Josh, I assume we want to close this one?
I'd like to, but I think I want to continue it
Okay,
just in case the Board of Health does something wacky, you know.
okay.
That way we can just get everything, we'll get everything addressed in the meantime and
Well,
take care of it.
let's hope they don't see this meeting so they don't just invite themselves to do that for you. So, okay, so motion to continue 4563 Village Street to July 11th.
Need a second?
Caulfield Spadia second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, so we will see you on the 11th, Josh.
We'll see you on the 11th and we'll get stuff to you as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is 105 Washington Street, which is Peter Lyons.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, Peter.
Did my screen come up?
Sure did, yeah. So
Awesome.
this is a notice of intent for a septic system upgrade. And this is a commercial building, right?
Correct.
Okay, you're up.
Awesome. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the owner of 105 Washington Street for a notice of intent for a septic repair. This building is a 12,000 square foot office space as categorized by Title V use. We have a wetland that basically wraps around the existing building and paved parking area. We have a MHW that mean high water to a stream that cuts into the rear or the western side of the site. The 100-foot riverfront resource and the 200-foot are shown by the light blue. Our 50-foot buffer is the orange, and a 100-foot buffer falls out into Washington Street. With this one, we're contending with the tight property lines, which is right on the edge of the pavement to the south and just to the north into the resource area. Towards the resource to the north, the rear of the parking is basically entirely paved within the upland portion of the site. So basically we're left with this front right corner of the lot. We're looking to replace the existing septic tank and leaching field, more or less in the same location, just larger than what's out there. We're going to be doing a 3,000 gallon 2-compartment H20 tank, and that's going to go to a pipe and stone leaching field. Obviously, we are close to the wetlands with this one. We're as close as 16 feet off of wetland flag 3, and inside the 200 to the mean high line, looks like about 180. We've proposed erosion control, sedimentation control, starting at the staircase in the back and wrapping around the stockpile area in the proposed limit of work, ending back up at Washington Street. Site access will occur from the paved driveways existing. Let's see, we've proposed a series of 13 conservation posts and markers, pretty much along the existing tree line of the property and the edge of lawn. Those run basically paralleling the wetland line the whole way around. And then we veer off of the wetland line just to keep it on the property in the southeastern portion of the site. We show a dewatering pit at approximately the 50-foot buffer to the wetland. And again, the soil stockpile area will be to the rear of the system. Looks like about 20 feet off of the wetland. Again, just a lot of this is due to spatial restriction. So we have our conservation post detail, sedimentation control, dewatering details shown on the plan, as well as all of our standard conservation notes, including silt sacks in the catch basins keep a clean site. We've also proposed additional sedimentation control, protecting the riverfront resource at the edge of the pavement, just being the down gradient to all the work. We've shown a crushed stone swale in that same area, again, for surface water management to slow down the flow off the parking, clean things up a little before it enters the resources. That's a quick rundown on this one. I'll take any questions from the commission.
Jennifer?
So a few plan revisions were requested and those were made. We're revising the buffer zone marker locations and adding a few extra ones. I'm just going to note that between wetland flag 11 and 12, they are mowing the wetland in that area. So they did add another marker, just so you're aware of it. Peter, how are they going to access the stockpile and the septic system only from the front, or do they need to drive around the back of the building as well?
No, there won't be any access around the back of the building. The soil stockpile, I mean, if needed, that's going to be probably some of the loam to help clean it up. I mean, the large excavation, basically a lot of this material is being stripped out and off-site. Just a small portion, of the clean native material will be kept to help when they backfill. So basically they're going to start at the tank and the distribution box end and work their way out of the site with the excavation.
Okay, and pave back over it.
Correct. It looks like, yeah, I can't really see the line, but the pavement does fall over a portion of the proposed leaching.
Okay. And your application, you checked you needed a waiver, but then you said you were exempt from the 50-foot buffer zone. So which one is it?
Personally, I'm not sure. I don't prepare those forms, so that's the first I've heard of it. Obviously, we are working within the 50 feet. We don't really have any other options on this one, so.
And can you tell us the riverfront area for under the bylaw?
What we are
there is
proposing
no-
as
yeah.
disturbance, or
Just a little, yeah, the disturbance, just so I can confirm. Yeah. So nothing for inner riparian.
no, nothing inner and outer. I don't see it on the plan, but I can get it for you pretty quickly. So disturbance would be basically our limit within the erosion control up to the 200 foot. So I can get you that real quick. I'm just opening up the CAD. Was there another question in the meantime while I pull that disturbance number out?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay.
Anything from the commission while Peter is giving us the numbers? Okay, so I think inner 50. This is a waiver situation, even under a simplified septic system, but it's a commercial building, so I don't think it applies anyway. So I think let's just go through the waiver. Do we believe that this is the best alternative, practicable alternative here? So I mean, I think probably that's the case. Anything else, they could potentially do it in front of the building, but I don't know that it's improving stuff a tremendous amount by doing that. This is the existing location. So from an alternative standpoint, I think they probably consider it and given us their best alternatives. Public interest, in my mind, a failed septic system, replacing one is always better for the public. And what's our third criteria, waiver people? I'm trying to even think. My brain isn't working. What's the third one, Jennifer? All of us.
Did you already do the,
50322.
yeah,
I know the citation. I just can't. I don't have my book with me, so I'm not going to look it up.
Well,
So
while we think on that, the area of the outer riparian disturbance is 2,400 square feet. And that's the entire area within the limit of work, including the stockpile and the proposed septic components.
thank you.
So for my just as we go to potentially to go to vote on this, I think it met waiver requirements. So we will proceed at that point. So normally we'd expect that in writing, but sometimes we can wing it here in the discussion. So any public comments? 105 Washington Street. Raise your hand, put a comment in the chat box, Q&A box. Okay, so seeing none, Peter, I assume you want to close?
Yes, we would.
Motion to close 105 Washington.
Second.
Caulfield, Stadia, second to close. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions for 105 Washington Street, noting waiver requirements have been met.
Beatty, second.
Caulfield, Spadia, second. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Thank you. Peter, you had asked me a question about staying around, and without getting into it too much, because I want to make sure the public has a chance to deal with it. But 232 Prospect is the only one I think we have an issue with. Actually, 9 Hermosa could be a problem too.
Okay, I could stick around and I'll tune back in when those come up. That's not a problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Yep, I see that.
Okay, so
And then
just wanted to,
go ahead.
so we'll wake you up when it happens.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is, I'm just going to demote you, Peter, so we don't get. Next up is 9 Peabody Drive. This is a notice of intent to install an in-ground pool and patio. Oh no, I'm sorry. Hang on a second.
You skipped one.
I know. I just realized that. Sorry. 274 Washington Street. Oh, it was Collins. How did I? This is why I told. Jeez, I'm really not doing well. What happened to Peter? Oh, he's back. Okay. Oh man.
I'm back. You kicked me out too soon.
I did. I thought we were already one ahead. Okay, 274 Washington Street. This is notice of intent for a system septic upgrade, widening of the driveway, and a fenced installation.
That is correct. Again, for the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the property owner at 274 Washington Street. As mentioned, this is the repair of a failed on-site septic system, an expanded driveway. This is a very small 7,500 square foot lot on the east side of Washington Street. We have a mean high water line shown associated with the drainage ditch just off property to the north. The 50-foot and 100-foot buffer zone and riverfront areas are shown on the plan. Obviously, we're contending with the tight site here in order to maintain the 10-foot horizontal setback to the garage. We are within the 50-foot to the wetland to the north here. This is very tight on all sides and up against the house. We have a water line in the front, so really no benefit to try to sneak something in out front. This will be a slightly raised system, about 3 feet over the septic tank, and some small retaining features around an existing bulkhead in the back. We are working as close as 41 feet to mean high water, flag 6. We show erosion control. We show a primary line basically paralleling the lot lines around the project and then wrapping up Washington Street. And we also show a secondary limit for sedimentation control around the stockpile area to the north of the system. Unfortunately, there's no access from the existing driveway to build this thing. So we will be entering on the northern portion of the lot within the 50-foot buffer. That is all contained within the sedimentation control limits. As some mitigation, we're proposing, what do we got going in here? Conservation signs on a proposed fence and a total of 16 plantings along the property line between the proposed work and the resource area. All of our standard notes, dewatering pits, sedimentation control, and wetland notes are listed on the plan. Silt sacks shown in both catch basins on the easterly side of Washington Street. That's my rundown. I'll take any questions.
Jennifer?
So we had some notes and we received the revised plan about the sediment control and the buffer zone markers. A few comments from the site inspection. The area just behind or to the north of the proposed planting area is filled with Japanese knotweed. So you may need to address how to keep that at bay so it doesn't take over the plants that you're proposing. And then there was a hose going from inside of the house directly into the catch basin. So they needed to remove that right away, but maybe you can explain what that was for.
Regarding the hose, I believe if I recall, it's a sump pump. This site has very high groundwater. The basement slab is at or under seasonal high groundwater for a good portion of the season. So currently the owner had that pumping out into the catch basins. I don't know if that has yet been rerouted.
Do you know if they have an oil tank in the basement?
I do not see a gas line, so presumably there's an oil tank in there.
Okay. And will they be reloaming and seeding the lawn or just leaving it the way it is?
Yep, the lawn and the proposed work, including the site access portions around the front and the side, will be regraded, loam and seeded once construction is finished. The erosion control is to remain in place until the site is stabilized.
So there's a notation here from Cecilia Coloma. Is she the homeowner? That she says there isn't an oil tank in the basement.
Okay, thank you.
Just Cecilia, can you just tell us, identify yourself with your address? So Renice, she's the homeowner's partner, so related to the homeowner. Okay, so I mean that takes care of a little bit of an issue with, we recently had a pretty major environmental issue with a sump pump in a basement that was discharging to a sensitive wetland area over on South Street. So, that's where all those questions come from, Peter.
Yep, I understand.
So I think they ended up with a huge cleanup for about 25 gallons made it out of the sump pump. So you can only imagine. Okay, I do think that we will need to condition that hose not going into the drainage ditch. So or the catch basin at all. Any other questions from the commission? Okay. So seeing none, Jennifer, any concerns with conditioning some of this stuff? Or it's already all conditioned for us?
You do have a draft. The illicit discharge is not a problem to create a condition for that. Just was there any comment on the Japanese knotweed that probably overtake what they're planting? Yeah, I mean, my considering they want to expand the driveway, I think that we would want them to address the Japanese knotweed. I know they're putting in 16 high bush blueberries, but like those will be gone in about 3 years. Low bush. Yeah, low bush. I'm sorry, low bush. Yeah. Sorry. So I think we do want them to address it. The one issue that I think is, Japanese knotweed is just one of those things you have to stay on top of. It's, you can keep at it and keep at it and keep at it, and it's still going to come at you. And I just think that's something they're going to have to deal with. So we can condition that. Yes. Anything else from the commission? Everybody agree on the Japanese knotweed? We're good with that?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. So make a motion. Oh, so any public comment on 274 Washington? Sorry. So seeing none, let's make a motion to close 274. I'm sorry, Peter, do you want us to close?
Yeah, I think we're good with everything. Just, I guess, for some clarification with the knotweed, we kind of see this a lot, that the majority of the vegetation is off our property. So, there's only so much we can do to maintain that. Whatever we get rid of, it's just going to keep creeping its way back. So I'm just curious how we're going to handle that, just so I can let, our client know what the process is going to be from now on with that.
Well, I think certainly they have to, they should take care of what's on their property for certain. And I think they should request permission to take care of what's on someone else's property between their property and the mean high water line of the ditch. So that's what I'd like to see happen. I can't make the other property owner give you permission, but I would like to see them request it.
Okay, then I guess we're fine with that.
I would like to make it required, but being it's off property, as you say. Make a motion to close 274 Washington.
Carol, second.
Sorry.
Caulfield's Carol second on the close. Roll call. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, so 5-0 close. Any discussion? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a permit for work and order conditions, noting that the applicant will need to undertake invasive species control on the north side of the property up to the property line and seek permission to do it up to the mean high water line of the intermittent stream to the north.
Spady, second.
Caulfield's roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, so it was Caulfield Spady at 5-0. Okay, and now I think I can put you back in attendees, Peter.
All right, we'll see you in a few hours.
I hope not.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so next up is 9 Peabody Drive. This is a notice of intent to install an in-ground pool.
This is Craig Sigadowski, Rim Engineering.
Hello.
I'm not sure if anybody from Easton Pool is actually on tonight or not. But we're proposing an in-ground pool with Easton Pool at 9 Peabody Drive. The house is built in 1991. And there is the resource areas on the property, the BBW, both to the east and to the south of the property line. Land subject to flooding, the
Craig,
floodplain
Craig, do you have plans for us?
Oh, sorry, yes. I can share screen. Oops.
And if there is somebody from Easton Pool and Spa, if they could raise their hand or whatever, they can join us, but I don't see anybody.
Okay, so the BBW is to the east and also to the south of this property. The drainage system for the road runs along the southerly property line into a drainage basin, then continues off into a BBW. The floodplain map shows a floodplain within the BBW to the east of our, on the eastern triangular area of our property line at the top of the top right of the lot. We didn't find the elevation by survey, but it shows it on the maps. And we are within the ACEC of the Canoe River, which is the issue that we have on this property. But get to that in a second. So the proposed pool is a 9x21, they call it a plunge pool. And it'll be surrounded by a pervious paver patio that will allow the infiltration through the stone underneath the patio into the soil before running off towards the wetland.
Excuse me, Craig, can you zoom that in a little bit, please?
That better?
Much, thank you.
Okay, so the pool is here. Proposed patio is 23x29 with a 9x20 foot pools inside, leaving about 8 feet on the easterly side of the pool apron to set up chairs and so forth, and 4 feet around the rest of it. So this area of the yard is open to the sky. The tree line is shown on there. As we move south, we have the existing septic system. The tank is right next to that patio. And if we were to move the pool behind the garage, we'd be further into the, well, we've been in an area where we'd have to clear trees in order to provide sunlight to the pool. Where we have it now, there are no trees proposed to be cut. But the issue, there is an existing play set that they will remove at the time they do the pool. So that will be taken out of the yard completely, and it's shown sitting in the middle of where the pool apron is. So because we're in the ACEC, your bylaw does not allow the addition of impervious area without a waiver request, which we have submitted. And again, we've chosen the area of the yard that is all lawn at this time, does not require trees to be cut for the pool to be used. As mitigation, we're proposing the total square footage of the patio area is 478 plus the 189 is 668 square feet, I think it is. So we're proposing 680 square feet of replication area of mitigation plantings. The wetlands was flagged and the mitigation was designed by Brad Holmes of ECR. So they have 11 plants plus some of the, I think 3 trees and 8 shrubs, and calling for conservation seed mix to be spread on the lower level. So we have that adjacent to the existing tree line, some of which was within the 50-foot no-touch buffer zone from the BBW. But at this time, it's a kind of a scraggly lawn. You can see the tree roots coming up and so forth. So like through, there's about 277 square feet that would be within the 50-foot buffer zone. But again, it's along the existing tree line. So plantings, about 20 square feet more than what we're proposing for the disturbance of the patio. As part of the waiver request, there's the benefit to the town. And what they're proposing is that they would either, because they have that existing drainage basin at the southerly side of the property, the pipes come down the property line. There's a head wall here. It goes into this basin, then through this head wall to the next pipe through a swale to the larger BVW. And they could maintain the cleaning the basin, leaves and branch debris, cleaning out the head wall areas. Or if you prefer, they would also be open to removing invasive species along the BVW. I would assume closer to where the pool area would be more beneficial, but again, they do have BVW to both the south and the east. As far as the access to the pool, right now, the existing driveway has a small turnout area. And then there's a stockade fence along this from the house. Over towards the property line is a 8-foot gate right there. With this type of pool, it's a pre-built one piece, 9 by 20. So I assume they would drop it in through a crane after digging the hole, obviously. So the stockpile area would be in the front yard outside of the 100-foot buffer, located to the north of the existing driveway. There is an existing chain link fence that runs around the yard and that will be used as the pool fence, but that existed prior to our client owning the lot. It runs within the 50-foot buffer zone, and as you can see, as you get close to flag C4 over here, the chain link fence is maybe 10 feet from the wetlands. And then as you come towards where the pool is, it gets further away, and then it runs along close to the property line. So it's been there since they've owned it since 2016. They don't, as Jennifer noted in her comments, they don't dump their leaf droppings in that area, lawn droppings. So we are proposing along the mitigation area 3 post and conservation medallions. I believe that covers what we're looking to do. Do you have any questions?
Jennifer?
Craig, can you look at the bottom so we can see the 2 stamps, please? I can't remember if you have both stamps now.
Oh, yeah. There is minor grading required when you first come in through the gate off the driveway. The lawn area, there's excuse me, shrubs along the edge of the garage, the northern side. And the lawn is up about 3 feet higher than where we're going to place the pool. So we're going to, in order to protect those shrubs, as well as I think they're putting an electric generator in that along that wall. We're doing some minor grading to lower the grade to allow the pool to be at a level. So we did have an engineer stamp on the plan.
Okay, thanks. And then just a note that I think you had the floodplain. Yeah, you made a note, right? There's a note.
Yeah. For a map 41F.
Okay, great. And as you mentioned, the existing chain link fence, the commission may want to just add that to the permit so that it's legal now. The restoration area planting talks about 1 report. Typically there's 1 for each growing season for at least 2 growing seasons. So that's up to the commission if they want to require that. And then catch basins in the road should have inlet protection, but that's it.
That note was added to the plan regarding the.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Craig, which note was added to the plan?
Jennifer pointed out that we should have had a note stating that the drainage within the road and also like an exit
Got it.
to protect the siltation.
So Jennifer, just a couple things here, or maybe Craig too, is it? So if I recall correctly, south of this property is rare species habitat, but this particular land doesn't have rare species habitat. Is that correct?
Right. If you look at the online map, it shows this property line as the border between rare species habitat PH 823 and our property.
I just
So-
wanted to note that. We just wanted to note that for the record, right? I mean, we're already tough enough in being in an ACEC, but the question, Jennifer, I have is, so typically in an ACEC replication areas, are we looking at 1-to-1, or are we typically looking at a 2-to-1 or more? Is there anything in the regulations related to this?
That I don't remember. That would be in their waiver request.
Yeah, I
Frank,
mean, they just state the dimensions. They don't tell us. I mean, I don't know that. I didn't have time to check today, so.
Greg, when you wrote the waiver request, did you look to make sure that it was in compliance?
I didn't see, again, I left, that was, ECR was handling that portion, and I didn't see anything that requires a 1-to-1 or a 2, one. There is room to, within the lawn, along the existing trees, obviously, we're not looking to clear trees in order to create mitigation. To go to, I think 830 square feet, where we have 600 existing, proposed pool area with the patio, 667 square feet. We're proposing 680 mitigation, but there is room to go to 830 without. I suppose there's other areas in the yard that it could be done if you were looking to make it 2-to-1.
So we don't have a DEP file number and you'll need to continue. Is that something you want to look at before the next meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
So, any other comments here for us? I mean, I'd like to talk about the waiver request because the public interest. We have to agree that that the public interest has been met here.
Is the waiver for the fence?
Now, waivers for impervious surface within 100-foot buffer zone in an ACEC.
Got it.
I know it doesn't matter as far as conservation, but regarding impervious coverage by zoning bylaw, they allow 20%. We'd be at around 8%. So I know that's totally different from what you're talking about, but just so you know, we're not trying to exceed what the zoning bylaw would allow.
So from my perspective, just to sort of, I mean, if you go to your waiver request, right? I mean, we've got the. I think you've minimized the impact without, the only other choice here would be to not do the project, right? I mean, so from that standpoint, I think you've done a good job of locating this in its least disturbance area. You've decreased the size. You've gone to pervious pavers. You've got a filter cartridge system with no backwashing. I mean, I think you've checked all the boxes as far as decreasing impact in alternatives here. So I think that the issue that we have to be fair, because I was just thinking about another project in a similar place in a different ACEC location in a different part of town, which was similar about a pool, and I just want to be that we make sure that we're applying the guidelines in a similar manner that we had proposed at that particular point. So I know a couple of members were on the commission at that time. So the public interest is written in the waiver request. I can just sort of, I don't know if everybody had a chance to do this. Benefit to the town, there's a drainage easement on this lot, drainage system of Beaver Drive. A portion of the drainage basin is on the lot. The outfall tail wall pipe within 10 feet of the lot line. There is also bordering vegetated wetland on the east side of the lot. Its benefit to the town applicant is amenable to keeping the basin clear of fallen branches, leaf litter, and other debris, or to the removal of invasive species along the BVW, whichever the commission feels would be a greater benefit to the town. So, Jennifer, do you know if there's identified invasive species out along the BVW?
I was just going to ask Craig that.
Just took one question.
Yeah.
Again, I would have to leave that up to Brad Holmes, ECR.
So theoretically, let's as a so from a commission standpoint, do we believe that either one of those proposals or those two proposals together are significant public benefit to proceed with the waiver request?
I said,
Nate, Ben, Mike, somebody?
question. With the catch basins, DPW generally takes care of those, correct?
These aren't the catch basins. These are the head walls for the drainage system.
Okay.
I don't think they're doing anything with those at all.
I was just curious if that was.
Well, yeah, if it's a drainage easement, then DPW would be taking care of that.
Okay.
They should be, would be. I think there's a big difference
be.
between those two.
Right, right.
Could be. Yes, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the removal of invasives has some public benefit over here. Especially, I think this is a project where they've tried really hard to keep the impact at a minimum. So I'd be okay with the removal of invasives. My one thought about the catch basin / draining easement is, shouldn't somebody already be doing that as opposed to considering it a public benefit on the project? Open to other people's input there, though.
You're speaking what I was thinking. I'm just curious, just how much invasives are there? What are they? That's what I would just like to know. Because if it's not much, then we're not gaining a ton.
How is any of that monitored? Like, those seem like nice proposals. How is it ensured that it's done?
I mean, they could provide you with monitoring report.
The conditioner, right?
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly monitor it for a period of years. So I think that there's probably a couple questions here. One is, do we believe that the replication area is large enough? Is 1-to-1 enough? I haven't heard anybody else say that they wanted more or less. Do we think 1-to-1 is sufficient?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that this is a huge project. I'm okay with 1-to-1 here as long as the bylaw doesn't say otherwise.
Okay. Nate, Mike, Al?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm set here.
Okay. So, I think from that standpoint, so the only other question here is from Brad is, what kind of invasive species are we talking about on both the east and the south side? So we don't have a DEP number, so we can't close anyway. So let's, any other comment from the applicant? Questions, concerns? Do we still have the applicant?
You asking me? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm all set if you are.
Oh, okay.
I believe Heather Rodriguez is on, so.
Yeah, she's okay. I was actually you as a representative, so it's all good. So we'll any public comment on 9 Peabody Drive? Okay, so seeing none, let's make a motion to continue 9 Peabody Drive to July 11th.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Spady, a second. Roll call. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay. The dreaded continued hearings. The good thing is each one of these, if the next hearing should go very quickly, so we don't have to spend all this time again. I hope so. The only question we'll have on this particular one is whether or not we believe that how much invasive species is there, and whether we not believe it meets the public benefit. So, okay, very good. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Next up is 534 Washington Street, which I believe asked for a continuance.
Correct.
Okay, so motion to continue 534 Washington Street to July 11th.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, I.
ADI.
Caulfield's Carol 5-0. Okay, so do we have 530, 550? I don't think so. So we will defer them down the here. I'm going to take these projects out of order at this point. So we're going to skip 530, 550 Turnpike until they can get out of the planning and zoning. And so next up is 560 Foundry Street. Representative, the applicant is Michael Toohill. This is the ongoing project for 46 single-family home lots, stormwater controls, roadways, etc. One thing I just do want to know for the record here that Mike's going to make a presentation today to cover all the materials that previously that members Nate Crossman and Al Benson had not heard before, so that we can catch everybody up so that both Nate and Al will be eligible to vote when we do take this to a vote at some point in the near future, we hope. So, Mike, does that make sense to you?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Very good. Mike, I understand you have a presentation for us. And
I do.
Whatever else you want to cover, we're here for you, buddy.
Okay. This will only take an hour or two, so I'll be all set.
Excellent.
My popcorn's almost done, so.
Oh, good. You better get another one. Try this again. This worked the other day.
There you go.
Okay. Hopefully I can make it run this time. Get this out of the way. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you're just seeing the main screen and not all the side of the stuff on the side.
Absolutely, yep.
All right, good. So Mike Toohill from Conoco Engineers and Scientists and
recording in progress.
As you requested last time, Chairman, I put together a PowerPoint to go over kind of the highlights all the way through the project. And obviously, if we want to get into any of the details, we can do that. But I tried to cover all of the individual discussion items that we've had in the past year plus on this project. So this is the Sawmill Village project, Foundry Street. And this is a recap of our project from the beginning. So this is the site. It's the old Belcher Malleable Iron Company site. There are actually two parts to this site. There's the eastern side and the western side. The eastern side of the site is the site of the old foundry. The western side of the site is a forested former farmland area. They're both south of 106, south of New Pond and Old Pond, which you can see in the picture there. The site is made up of 5 parcels. I'll kind of try to point them out. This is the old boundary site. And then this is Beaver Brook that separates the site. This is Mulberry Meadow Brook that kind of runs down here. And then the other 4 parcels are on the western side of the site. This triangle parcel here originally was part of this entire property, but the previous owner had donated this to the town. So this is now town property. And this area down here is important in the discussion as we get moving forward. So the total area is 26.3 acres if you count all 4 parcels. There are a variety of resource areas on the site, and I kind of broke these down by Wetland Protection Act and Easton bylaw resource areas. So we have BVW bank in both Beaver Brook and Mulberry Meadow Brook, land underwater because they're both perennial streams. And because they're both perennial streams, we have riverfront area on both of those streams. And it's important that the riverfront area is viewed differently on the east side than the west side. Under the regulations, the west side of the site is an undeveloped parcel. The east side of the site is previously developed. And because of that, it falls under two different sections of the Wetland Protection Act regulations. And we've been through this with Andrea, with Jennifer, and others, trying to figure out exactly how to deal with this particular site. So that's important as we move forward, that we're dealing with riverfront in kind of two different ways. Previously developed riverfront, which has a set of standards, and previously undeveloped riverfront, which has a set of standards. There's bordering land subject to flooding on the site. I'll get into that a little bit later because that's a rather convoluted and confusing area. And then under the Easton bylaw, we have isolated vegetated wetlands, none of which we're touching, but there are isolated vegetated wetlands on the western part of the site. And there are vernal pools in the BVWs, BVWA, BVWE on the western part of the site. And the entire site is within the Canoe River ACEC, which is also important, as you heard in a previous hearing when you come talking about waivers. All right, move on there. There we go. The site, because it was a forge, there was some contamination issues on that eastern side of the site. And it's been extensively tested by several different consultants, including Conoco, but others before us. There was some cleanup that occurred. It's all gone into the DEP under the Mass Contingency Plan. There are licensed site professionals that are working on this, as well as DEP people, and everybody has signed off that the site, the areas that need to be cleaned up are cleaned up. We had extensive discussions about this in previous hearings. And we can resurrect that later on, Mr. Chair, if we need to, probably not this evening. The resource areas were delineated and peer reviewed, and then an ORAD was issued in 2019. And because of the COVID tolling, that ORAD is valid for another year plus. It's valid until September of 23. An important part of riverfront discussions and discussions for ACEC and other projects, large projects like this, are the alternatives that were considered and what public benefits could accrue from the project. So there's a memo that's in Permit Eyes, dated February 25th, that goes into this in a lot of detail. I'm going to show a few slides just to show you some of the alternatives that we went through as we work through this. And then the listing that's over on the right-hand side are the public benefits. So there's going to be a donation of 11.5 acres out of the 26 acres. 11.5 acres is going to be public land donated to the town of Easton. We've talked about this. We're going to have recreational trail access so people can go from the Old Pond, New Pond area across 106 through the parcel and get to some of the trails that are to the south. There's an ecological restoration component of this project, and I'll talk about that later on when we get into mitigation. But in brief, Beaver Brook is carried through a 175-foot long culvert on the southern end of the site, and that's actually down on the town property. And so it's not a free-flowing stream through there. It flows through a long culvert. In addition to that, there's a 36-inch pipe that bypasses the low flow of Beaver Brook from north of that culvert to south of that culvert, taking about another 450 feet, I think it is, of Beaver Brook out of play during low flow conditions. So you've got a very long stretch of Beaver Brook that's impacted. This project is going to remove that 175-foot long culvert, daylight the stream, create new riparian areas along that stream, and also cut off that 36-inch pipe so that low flows stay in Beaver Brook. There are ecological cleanup components. There's some artifacts that remain from the days of the foundry out there, and those are going to be removed. There's environmental cleanup that's occurred, and there's also a commitment that as they work on the site. If they have to dig down in areas, there's going to be an LSP on board to make sure that we don't encounter any other contamination, although they've tested it pretty extensively. There are public infrastructure improvements. The sewer that runs in 106, a large part of the fee structure is going to be paid by the 46 homes that are being put into here. There are traffic improvements. There's going to be a light at the entrance on 106. So that's kind of a tough turn right there as it is now. So there's going to be a light in there. There's going to be additional funding for public projects and increased housing availability, which is kind of the obvious reason. So back in the beginning, this was originally planned on paper anyway, for 70 homes on this. And this is the old Ford site. This is the eastern part of the site. Matter of fact, underneath you can see some of the outlines of the old buildings. This is the undeveloped former farmland on the west of the site. So there were, originally back in 2018, 70 homes planned with 2 entrances on 106. One on the west side, one on the east side, and nothing connecting the two. So it was almost like 2 separate developments. That progressed into a 67 home alignment, and we had originally planned on potentially having a road connecting underneath. This is Wetland A. Underneath Wetland A, this gets down onto town property. So there was originally talk of putting a road to connect these two, but again, 2 entrances off of 106 with 67 homes. That progressed further as we started getting into the ANRAD and the hearings. This got down to 64 homes, kind of similar configuration with a road going to the south and 2 entrances off 106. By January 2019, when we had filed with the commission, it went to 64 first, then it went to 62. So we're at 62 homes in this picture, and still an entrance on either side on 106 and a road connecting, and you can see the property boundaries here, a road connecting through that part of the town property. Then we went through a couple of changes where we went down to 46 homes. And this 46 home alignment still had a road coming in here, but this was for emergency access only. So really 1 primary entrance, and then a straight shot road connecting the east and the west sides of the site. We got rid of that road going along the south. 44 home plan, we went down a couple of homes because we eliminated homes that were potentially affecting this isolated wetland. And I think in the original configuration, I think it was this one that was also affected. And in consultation with the commission, the actual alignment of this road changed substantially because we wanted to avoid wetland impacts as much as possible. There's a gap between this isolated wetland and this bordering vegetated wetland. So we were able to align that crossing. Here's Beaver Brook right here. There's a Beaver Brook crossing. We're able to align that between the wetlands, and we have, I'll show this later, there's a small impact of BVW here, but there's no impact to the isolated wetland systems. The project has been extensively peer reviewed. Nova Armstrong did the original peer review of the ANRAD. That's when the ORAD was issued by this commission. Andrea, both when she was your agent and then after she retired being agent, she took this on as a job through this past January, I think it was January, February. So Andrea did a lot of the reviews of the bylaw, the waivers, and the overall filing. Woodard and Curran did a lot of the engineering review, primarily floodplains and stormwater engineering review. And LEC also has been involved since the beginning and did a review of the overall filing along with Andrea. And then specifically lately has been doing a lot of review of the wildlife habitat issues. And we'll talk about those in a bit. Floodplain, I promise you this one was going to be a bit confusing. The floodplain in Mulberry Meadow Brook was mapped correctly, we think. Beaver Brook floodplain was clearly not mapped correctly, and I'll show you a picture in a second. So Conoco modeled both floodplains using site-specific topography. FEMA models are done on a regional basis, and they use kind of USGS level, LIDAR type level topography. And so they're not accurate on any particular site. They show an overall floodplain picture. And so in this particular area, knowing what we did about the site, we felt that the floodplain was not being accurately portrayed, and I'll show that in a second. So we went through extensive modeling back and forth with Woodard and Curran. They actually have a gentleman who used to be one of the main floodplain modelers at Fema, works for Woodard and Curran up in Maine. So he did the peer review of this project for the town. And so that model was revised and re-revised a number of times. And I think we finally have a final agreement that the model that we put together accurately portrays the floodplain and the potential effects on the floodplain. And then this commission also agreed, and I'll show this in a second, that as opposed to using the existing FEMA mapping, what we want to use is a base case where when the stream is daylighted, as you can imagine, the 175-foot long culvert acts as an impediment to flow, especially during high flows. So during the 100-year storm event, water backs up behind that. Once you take that out, you take the plug out. And now you don't want to export that problem downstream. So we modeled what would happen downstream, but we also modeled what would happen upstream. And the floodplain gets reduced. So as a base case, what we proposed to the commission agreed that we were going to use the new stream channel, not the 175-foot long culvert, as the base case, provided we build that first, obviously. So we're proposing to build that first. And that's the base case for the floodplain. And then any impacts that the project has are against that base case. So here's one of our lovely floodplain graphics. This grade area that you can see along Mulberry and along Beaver Brook is the FEMA floodplain. And it's a little hard to see, but the stream is actually here, Beaver Brook, but their floodplain is over here. So the floodplain was kind of offset from it, and it just didn't make sense hydrologically or hydraulically the way it was working. So this is out of the model. These are cross sections that are put into the model. And the other colors that are shown on here are the resulting floodplain after the project is done. And then there's a little bit of yellow shading in here that's kind of hard to see at this scale, but that's the base case floodplain. So we were able to reduce the floodplain significantly by daylighting the stream down here. I've got a couple of slides of impossible to read tables. So all I'm going to do is refer to you to these tables. We went through extensive analysis of impacts and mitigation. In addition to these tables, there's a whole series of graphics that we've submitted to the commission that's up on Permitize that show all of the impacts to the different resource areas. And that's what I'm trying to show on these tables. We have 4 different tables breaking impacts down, mitigation, floodplain, riverfront is separate. So you have a riverfront table, there's a floodplain table, there's an overall table, there's mitigation tables. So tables 1, 2, 3, and 4 have all been updated with the new numbers and everything and are all uploaded to Permitize. And so I'm actually going through right now, Jen, and making sure that the versions that I have as the most current versions are also the ones that are on Permitize. I believe they are, but I want to make sure that the absolute latest stuff is up there. So I encourage the commissioners to take a look at these tables and the graphics that accompany these tables. So I want to give just a quick overview of what the impacts are. Bordering vegetated wetlands. This is the Beaver Brook crossing. So the Beaver Brook crossing does have to go through some wetlands. There's about 3,230 square feet of wetlands that are being impacted at BBW. There are 5 isolated wetlands on the site. There's no impact to any of the isolated wetlands. The bank impact is primarily due to the culvert. It's 175 feet long and a perennial stream has bank on both sides. So there's 350 linear feet of bank in a culvert. So the remainder of this is at the ends of the culvert because we have to join the stream in somehow at the upstream and downstream end. And then up by Beaver Brook where we have the crossing, there's a little bit of bank impact up there as well. So that's what this difference is here. So there's less than, it's like 75, 78, I guess it is, linear feet of bank that are not part of the culvert. Land under water bodies and waterways. This is, again, this is both in the culvert and at Beaver Brook. Bordering land subject to flooding. We do have almost 9,200 cubic feet of storage that's being lost by fill. And this is cubic feet of the new floodplain after Beaver Brook is daylighted. Riverfront area, I mentioned, we have two different ways of looking at it. 1058.5, which is the Wetland Protection Act, 1058.5, that's the eastern side of the site. That's the previously developed standards. So over there, we have 83,362 square feet of riverfront area, most of which is previously developed, almost all of which is previously developed. And so we treat that previously developed riverfront very differently than we would undeveloped riverfront. 1058.4 is the undeveloped. This is the the western side of the site. We have about 38,000 square feet of impact, which is 6.4% of the total riverfront on that side of the site. So we're down below the 10% threshold is what this is all about. Vernal pool habitat, we're not below mean high water. We're not in the vernal pools. We're not in the first 100 feet, which under your bylaw is regulated as vernal pool habitat. Some of the work we're proposing is in the buffer to the vernal pool habitat, but there's no impact to vernal pool habitat itself. We have a lot of mitigation on this project. Besides some of the daylighting and the cleanup and all that, just the actual numbers of kind of replication, restoration. We're proposing two different bordering vegetated wetland areas, replacement areas, which I'll show you in a second. So about 3.1 times the level of impact. Remember, the impact was around 3,200 square feet. We're putting in 10,000 square feet of new wetland areas. IBW, we don't have any impact, so we don't have any replication. Bank, 1.1 times. So we're actually making the stream channel of Beaver Brook slightly longer because we're, instead of putting it in a straight shot the way the culvert is now, we're going to put it in a meander channel, more natural channel. Land underwater, we're going to increase that again because of the channel, the new channel that we're putting in. Bordering land subject to flooding, we have more compensatory storage than is required. We're about 1.4 times the volume, and one of those tables that I showed you very briefly before shows this comparison on a foot-by-foot basis, and you have to do it on a foot-by-foot basis. So we show on a foot-by-foot basis how we're compensating for floodplain fill. Riverfront area, we have a creation of 236,148 square feet of riverfront area, okay? A lot of it is because of the donation of land to the town, okay? Vernal pool habitat, we're not impacting any, so we're not creating any. So here's one of the two replication areas. This is up by the Beaver Brook crossing. This is the crossing is right over here on the side. So again, this is on the western side of the site, but it's right next to Beaver Brook. So we're proposing to put in this wetland replication area. Underneath this, it's a little hard to see, but there are lines under here that show, if I can find them myself, there are lines under here that show where the impact is. Oh, they're just off the side here, where the impact is to the BVW. Here's the BVW right here. And here's part of the BVW right here, the existing BVW. This is the big replication area to the south. This is on town, primarily on town property. Here's the property line. So this is part of the eastern parcel of the site. This is that parcel that was donated to the town. This is where that 175-foot long culvert is. It goes right through here. This is where, if I can find it, this is where that 36-inch bypass culvert, which picks up stream flow from way up here and bypasses it all the way around. So upstream of where the 175-foot long culvert is, there's about 450 linear feet of stream that doesn't have low flow, which isn't good. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to fix that. So here's the new stream channel curve. Here's a new wetland replication area. And then we're also doing upslope of the replication area. We're doing plantings on both sides. So there are planting plans, schedules. We went through all the different kind of plantings with LEC a number of times, and everyone agreed that it's a pretty good plant palette that we're putting in here, all native species, obviously. Floodplain compensation. The primary floodplain compensation is up here on the upstream side. Through the modeling, it was determined that putting it down here, which is where we were originally going to try it, wasn't going to work correctly. So Woodard and Curran had us move that floodplain compensation. So the floodplain compensation is up in this area here. That's okay. We're going to add some turtle nesting habitat. These are the edges of, kind of out of context for you, but these are the edges of detention basins on the western side of the site. So Mulberry, Meadow, Brook is over here. And we wanted to put in some additional habitat structure, habitat features on that western side of the site. So we're going to put in these turtle nesting areas on both detention basins on that side of the site. Trail connectivity is something we've talked to the commission about. We had a number of different versions of this. Mike Spadia was involved in this heavily. There are some existing trails on here which actually go kind of behind where these houses are proposed, very close to this wetland. This is one of the vernal pools right here. This is vernal pool A, and over here is vernal pool E, and that trail system goes right by this vernal pool. So it was decided after discussion with the commission that it's probably better not to formalize that. It would be better to have some safe crossing. This is a safe crossing now because it's signalized. So people that are at Old Pond, New Pond can use the sidewalk, can come across, use the sidewalks in the subdivision, come down to here, and then we're putting in this very small hammerhead lot for, I think it's 6 cars. So people that don't want to walk all the way down there can drive down, and then there's opportunity to park 6 cars down here. I think it's 6. And then there's a drop-off stairs, and then this trail system that's connecting down to the edge, down to town property. After that, and Mike Spady and I have had discussions about this, whether or not there's, a good trail network down here now or something, but this will provide connectivity in the future through here to connect Old Pond, New Pond to the trail system to the south on town land. Big part of the project is open space donation. So the green is what's being donated to the town. So there are large areas, not just wetlands, but there are large areas of uplands. There's protection areas around these vernal pools. This vernal pool here in E, there's a little one here, then there's one in A. So this buffer zone, first of all, the habitat, the 100-foot out, and then the buffer zone, which is out here, can be protected long-term. So this is a commitment on the part of the applicant to donate these parcels of land. The purple are areas that are going to be held by the homeowners association in common, and then obviously the light blue are the individual homeowners parcels. An important part of the crossing of Beaver Brook is to make sure that we were compliant with the stream crossing standards from the DEP. And here's the Beaver Brook crossing. So a little hard to see, but here's the bank of Beaver Brook right here, and here's the bank of Beaver Brook right here. So we're spanning over the bank. So the abutment is upslope of the bank on both sides. So this is a clear span over both sides of the bank. And there's kind of a picture, a longitudinal view picture of the crossing. And the bottom line is the crossing meets or exceeds all of the required stream crossing standards, which are bankful width, span width, openness ratio. There's a separate document in Permitize that discusses just the compliance with the stream crossing standards. Stormwater is always a big issue on developments. And the bottom line is the project complies with the DEP stormwater standards, and Woodward and Curran, your peer reviewers, agree to that. There are multiple stormwater controls included in the project. So here's the old forward side of the site, the east side. So there are treatment systems up here and detention systems. There's a detention system, there's a treatment system here, treatment train, there's a detention system here, and there's a treatment system here. This is on the west side. There are 4 bays, but there are 3 detention systems on this side of the site. These are the ones where we're going to do the turtle nesting habitat, the ones that are facing Mulberry, Meadow, Brook. This is the wetland replication area up here. And so this is the detention. It's obviously outside of the wetland replication area. Wildlife habitat has been a large part of the discussion with this commission as we've gone along. So what we're protecting is wildlife habitat. So the Wetland Protection Act, the DEP, these quotes are all from the DEP. It means that we're not, that the mere presence of wildlife is not enough to establish habitat value, and that the statute protects the habitat value, not the wildlife per se. This is a yellow-spotted salamander. This is a vernal pool. This is what we're concerned about on the western side of the site. We have, it doesn't look quite like this. This isn't the vernal pool on the site, but we have vernal pools on the site, and we have, at least in 2 of those vernal pools, we have yellow-spotted salamander. We also have wood frog breeding habitat. Yellow spots have a larger overwintering range. They use the vernal pools for breeding. But they live in the upland areas adjacent to the vernal pool. And they're called mole salamanders because they use burrows. They use primarily chipmunks and mole burrows on the site. So we actually did extensive wildlife habitat analysis of that western side of the site, looking for chipmunks, looking for chipmunk burrows, looking for likely places. We have, skip over that. We've had that peer reviewed. You've had that peer reviewed by LEC. There are some points that we agree to disagree on, to be honest with you. We don't see that habitat, that western side of the site, as being the significant habitat for those species. Believe it or not, that vernal pool E, which is the main vernal pool on the very western side of the site, we really think that the primary area where those critters are overwintering is in the stone walls and up in that lawn area for the houses that are but Route 106. That area has the appropriate soils. It's got the right aspect ratio to the vernal pool. It's got chipmunks. It's got burrows. We really haven't seen that many of them out on this western side of the site. As I've said all along, there's no doubt that there's some impact to wildlife habitat when you do a development. The question is the level of significance of that impact. And I'll finish up, Mr. Chairman, just by saying that we recognize that there are a number of waivers. We're in an ACEC, so the waiver standards are even higher in the bylaw than in non-ACEC areas. Andrea was kind enough to put this chart together for me, so I just cribbed it directly from her. These are the resource areas and the activities in the resource areas. Her table also has impact numbers. Those impact numbers from December, February, March, when she originally was writing the table. The numbers have changed some, so I didn't want to put the old numbers up, but we can fill in the numbers again in that table. So these are the citations out of your bylaws of all the areas where we're seeking waivers for these different activities under the bylaw. So there are a number of them. There are individual waiver requests uploaded to Permitize for all of these. And it goes through all of the standards of the waiver, including public benefit standards. That's it for my presentation. There's a lot to think about.
Jennifer, do you want to comment at all, or?
Sorry. Thank you, Mike. That was a really good overview. And I know last we spoke, you were just going to make sure that the alteration amounts did match the plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still working on that?
In the tables, they do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make sure I definitely uploaded the most recent one where they do match.
Yeah, I'm not going to have any other comments right now. That was, we were just doing an overview tonight. So that was really helpful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Anything more you'd like to see from Mike
especially Mr. Benson and Mr. Crossman, if I can interject, Rory, because this was for everybody's benefit, but primarily for them.
Oh, I thought it was
you did a
helpful.
very good job. Thank you.
Yes, it was helpful to see how the project has evolved over time and the steps you're taking to mitigate the impact.
Okay.
Mike or Ben?
Nothing for me. Thanks for a great synopsis of the project. I think when I first started, I sat through one of these and I think I picked up maybe about 15% of it. So it really was helpful to see that again. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to send this to Jennifer too.
Mike?
Alan, Ben, just so you guys are aware, so in some of the trails that Mike was talking about too, on the front where New Pond is and on the other side of the Foundry Street project on the other end towards Wheaton, the Bay Circuit Trail is actually on both ends of that. So that is something we were speaking of, maybe making a connectivity to through the Bay Circuit Trail. So just to add to that trail piece, and it's kind of an important part because currently that section is primarily run on road and through some neighborhoods winding towards Wheaton. So that would actually bring it completely wooded except for just a street crossing. And now we'll have probably have a crosswalk and lights. So that will be kind of sweet. So just to throw that out there. But Mike, awesome job, man.
One of the things too that, and I don't know, I don't want to go into it in depth, and I'm sure that Mike doesn't want to either, but we spent probably a couple of meetings on it. The soil testing that's been done on this site. I mean, I know there's, this was a foundry for like 100 years. And obviously different techniques over time. And as Mike said, they did find some contamination over time, and some of it goes back to the 80s and 90s prior to Mike's involvement in the project that were remediated. And I believe that during their testing, they found one spot that needed to be remediated, but it was 20 plus test pits, plus I think 2 or 3 wells that were there as well. So it was quite extensive, the testing that was done there. I do want to be very clear about this, just from a public standpoint. By no means is this site clean, but it is below the acceptable levels. So, the site, just like any site, you could have it in your own house as far as acceptable levels of materials. So this site does not have any readings that are above state standards regarding contaminants. So it isn't the contaminants aren't there; they're just at low enough levels that.
Right, and on that too, Mr. Chairman, there, as you know, and you can tell from the grading plans, there's going to be a significant amount of filling on the site, and that further separates, the use, which is single family homes with kids and dogs and everything else, from any low level contamination that's down below.
So does everybody understand that all the fill that's there on 560 Foundry right now is actually going to stay on site, and towards the back of the property there'll be a retaining wall to keep that there. So there'll be many feet of fill between the current grade and the new existing grade when the homes are built. So I think, Mike, just the one comment, and it's only because I did promise a member of the public who raised the issue. There was I did want to see, maybe you can just present this to us at some point or upload it for me and tell me it's there. There was a sand pit, an old sand pit off to the southeast part of the original foundry site that there was some concern about what could have been possibly contaminated in there. And I believed, partly because it was an old map, and so I wanted I believe that there's at least 2 test pits that were in that area. I just wanted an overlay of those test pits on that sort of old map, if you recall that question.
Right, and I provided that, didn't I?
You could have.
I think I did, but I'll do it again.
No, I never saw it. It could be uploaded to Permitize, and I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
it's
okay.
possible there. So, if someone wants to just point out specifically that, I can bring it up at the next meeting so I know I've covered that topic. I do want to do that. And from what I recall in conversations with Andrea when she was involved in this, that our summation that at least one of those test pits was in that general area was correct. So I just, that was a specific question that I told a member of the public that I would address.
Okay, I'll make sure I'm
If you
sure I
just
did
point
it.
out which one of the 500 documents
Oh,
is in the
there's,
file,
I know, there's just so much. Okay,
I would appreciate that. Okay, so at this point, Jennifer, what's our next steps in this project?
That was going to be my next comment. Can we just go over what we expect to do in the next 2 weeks and what we expect to happen at the next meeting? So I think we had it drafted. Lost my. Drafted that we would go through each resource area, the alteration amount and compliance with the law with the specific waivers together. Is that where we're headed?
I think so. I mean, I think this is absolutely going to come down to disturbance and waivers. There's no question. From my perspective, I mean, the rest of the commission can speak up as well.
I agree.
So I think that from our perspective, and I think that Mike has indicated that he has uploaded that material, and I'd like to see a presentation and discussion from us on those disturbance areas. Mike laid it out pretty well in his presentation today that where they have disturbance, they've done replication well exceeding the 1-to-1 criteria, and a lot of what's being done in certain areas. I mean, we take some of the wildlife habitat that may be impacted on the western side. You take the daylighting of the stream and the wildlife habitat that's being created or enhanced on the eastern side as well. And I think that from my standpoint, we've got to sort of take the cumulative impact of all those things together and try and see, does that meet our requirements? And but there's also, this Mike's, BVW is getting impacted and Riverfront area, and they are donating 11 acres of land around some pretty sensitive ecological areas. The continuity of the trails that Mike talked about, and the Bay Circuit Trail, as it says right now, is the connection between New Pond and Wheaton is mostly on roads. And so this will allow us to use our own property to get over the Wheaton and decrease the amount of actual walking on roads when it's the Bay Circuit Trail, which is quite an impact. So I think that from my standpoint, that's where we're headed here, Mike, and I think that's what we need to see,
okay.
Because that's really the linchpin of this project. I mean, this is the culmination of all the work that you've done over the last several years, and understanding all those impacts. Are the waiver requirements being met? And I think you've done a good job of giving the information, and it's up to us to sort of evaluate it and make sure that we believe that the town interests are being met, and that it's a good overall project. So that's what we need to get to.
Okay.
Anything else you need from us, Mike?
I don't think so. So we on July 11th?
Yep. Just with,
right?
Yep. With 17 other projects, we got continued to July 11th.
Okay.
So any public comment for 560 Foundry Street since we do these meetings for the public? So seeing none, let's make a motion to continue 560 Foundry to July 11th.
Spady second.
Caulfield, Spady is second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Henson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady aye.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you getting everybody caught up here, and we look forward to continuing this discussion with you. You've been doing a great job. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Okay, so I believe the representatives for 530, 550 Turnpike Street are here. So we can promote them and we can go back to that particular project.
PK Boston Law is Attorney Pellegrini.
And John O'Leary as well. Oh, I don't know what I just did there. Okay, somebody's doing it instead, so I'll just.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for shifting some stuff around as it relates to this. I do believe Scott Morrison from Ecotech, our wetland scientist, as well as Rob Pellegrini, who I see just joined, and I believe Austin Chartier from Mackenzie Engineering is also on the line. We're going to try to get through this presentation sort of quickly here this evening. So I'm going to start off here sharing my screen if possible. Can everyone see? Is everyone looking at the PowerPoint slide, or are you looking at mine?
We can see your slides.
See the slides. Perfect. Perfect. All right, so I'll hand it off to Rob to kind of kick us off. We're just going to kind of quickly go through this project high level once again and touch on a few of the changes that were made as a result of the staff report.
Good evening, everybody. Rob Pellegrini. Thank you for accommodating us. And you may hear we're still waiting for planning, so I have them on my laptop behind me, so I apologize. But real quick, this is located right on Turnpike Street. We started meeting with Miss Carlino and Miss Danielson in very early March. Had an informal meeting with the chairman of the planning board, Mr. Strange, mid-March. We went to design review early April. We had our first meeting with you folks on June 6th. Shortly after that, on June 20th, we sent in a reply to the staff report. With that was the NOI narrative, revised plans, the no-take letter from NHESP Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, the restoration report, post-development BMPs, the construction pollution prevention and erosion and sedimentation control plan, and the turtle protection plan. So with that, we have here tonight John O'Leary, the project proponent, who was logging in earlier. We have Austin Chartier with Mackenzie Engineering Group, and we have Scott Morrison, wetland scientist with Ecotech. So I'm hoping between the four of us, we can answer all of your questions and start to move forward a little bit. So with that, I'll turn it straight over to John O'Leary to start with the site overview slide.
Thanks, Rob. Again, for the record, John O'Leary, project proponent here from Rhino Capital. As sort of just going to kind of cruise through these, I know we sort of went over a lot of this in our previous meeting, but just to kind of jog everyone's memory again, we have 530 and 550 Turnpike Street here, located just a half mile from the intersection of 106 and 138. Total of 79 acres over the two pieces of property, 49 and a half of which are existing wetland areas, which represents roughly 62% of the overall property. 71 of those 79 acres is rare species habitat, which is the area you see hatched in green here, which represents just over 90% of the total acreage. Our proposed development will stay entirely within or outside of, the natural, the rare species habitat area, which represents roughly less than 10% of the total site area. Existing site conditions, currently the property is occupied by a golf driving range, pro shop, teaching area, maintenance shed, snack shack, batting cages, as well as an existing mini golf course. Existing 181 parking spaces and roughly 4.5 acres of total impervious area. Our proposed site conditions, as we've talked about previously, the 101,200 square foot proposed warehouse building comprised of 8% office and 92% warehouse, which is roughly 8,000 square feet, 93,000 square feet of warehouse, 8,000 of office, 93 of warehousing. We're proposing 109 parking spaces, 2 electric vehicle charging stations, 6 handicap spaces, 7 proposed loading docks located at the rear of the building opposite Turnpike Street, as well as 7 proposed trailer storage spaces to accompany those loading docks. Right now, our project is proposed just over, about 4.88 acres of impervious coverage, and actually the majority of that is represented by the building itself. It's roughly a 0.4% increase. I know that this was a question that came up in a previous hearing. We put together this buffer zone impact slide, and I wanted to hand this over to Austin Chartier, our site civil, to sort of talk through what's going on in this, to provide a little bit more context to the board so they understand what's going on in this slide.
Sure, thanks, John. Austin Chartier with McKenzie Engineering Group. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly highlight some of the buffer zone impacts of the major improvements of the project. We provided a response memo to the staff report that we received. We're still waiting on a peer review, and that's a topic we can get into maybe later. But so a lot of the stuff we did not address, or at least submit back to the commission, was the stormwater related comments that may have come up with the SWIP and comments like that. We figured we'd rather just do it once and have it be a more comprehensive resubmittal at that time. But so again, we just wanted to really highlight. So what you see here in blue is the bottom of the existing stormwater basin. It was built prior to 1996, so it's going to be kept on site. And really we're adding, it's a similar design that we're adding to the site. It'll just be an upgrade to the existing infrastructure. And really the key improvements are the reduction of disturbed area within the 100-foot buffer zone. And primarily that, we're not proposing any impervious coverage within the 0 to 50. And within the yellow, we're proposing 14,000 square feet, where today existing within both of those zones is over 40,000 square feet of impervious. And we're tightening up the limits of work in general. The north side of the site, right now it's a parking lane kind of running up towards the right side of your screen there. So that's all going to go away, get planted, and be turned back into a grass area. And a key improvement that we're proposing out here is a restoration of the driving range. And Scott Morrison can speak to that restoration plan a little bit more. I think that's the next slide. So I can turn it over to Scott.
Thank you. Scott Morrison from Ecotech here. So after the last meeting, we prepared a plan to kind of show you the 8 acres and kind of the planting scheme. We've updated the restoration plan. One minor item is when we updated the restoration plan, we had an error on the saplings. We had 100 saplings originally, and we added some shrubs, but somehow in the interpretation, it changed to 750. So that's not what's intended. It's not what's intended, and we will update that. But anyway, we've included a lot of the Conservation Commission agents' comments to add 6 to 10 brush piles within those areas, which will provide some additional habitat. We've provided some shrubs, which again will add some habitat value within those areas. That's currently grass we're proposing to restore. And we've also provided in that report a little bit more detail for the invasive species management so that the commission can kind of understand that what's involved there. So what we do there, we propose for 2 years of monitoring and treatment of any invasive species. The intent is to allow the proposed plantings to really kind of take off, fill in that area. And while it's occurring, we're trying to knock down any invasive species of plants that may pop up there. So, the plan is to go treat those before they become a colony of invasive species. So that's what's proposed there. The other thing noteworthy is we've received a no-take letter from Natural Heritage. So we've got that in place based upon this plan. We may need to, Natural Heritage approved the original plan, so we may need to just reconcile this once the Conservation Commission finally approves it. But I'm confident that what we've got shown here and the recommendations from the Conservation Commission agent, that we can successfully get Natural Heritage to sign off on that. So it's about 8 acres of restoration, as we discussed earlier in last meeting. So there's 8 acres of existing area that's maintained turf that's used as the golf driving range within the ACEC, which is being proposed to be restored. So I think it's a really good project, and we'll provide those updates, as I noted earlier, to the Conservation Commission. I think if we can click to the next sheet, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but we're kind of wrapping up here, kind of ask for some questions and comments that we might be able to address.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I wouldn't mind, just in closing, to reiterate what Austin had mentioned regarding the peer review, we are going to go through that process, and we'll be submitting, to Austin's point, a more formal and robust set of plans once those comments have been made and addressed. We didn't feel that submitting, we wanted to get back on these staff report comments, make sure that we're addressing these, which we have, but have held off on submitting a full revised set of plans until those peer review comments have been received, taken into consideration and responded to, and then agreed upon, and then moving forward in that direction. So that was sort of our choice, and we'll wait for next steps there.
Okay. Jennifer, do you have any feedback for us as far as addressing your comments?
So we continued the public hearing, the last meeting, for Natural Heritage's letter, which we have received. So that's good. We're waiting for a peer review stormwater quote. We still did not receive that from the companies that we had requested, so we found another one. That quote has been posted. It is required under Chapter 44, Section 53G, and we're just waiting payment for that.
So I think that from my standpoint, I'm very much pleased with where this project is going. I think the overall project and isolating the disturbance to the west side of the property, and freeing up all that area to the south and increasing migratory areas for various wildlife from a north to south standpoint is quite substantial. The revegetation of 8 acres of land in a priority habitat in ACEC, I think, or in an ACEC is quite, quite substantial, and makes a great deal of sense. And so the redevelopment of this property, I think you guys are doing a great job with. So any other comments from the commission? That's a no across the board. So I guess we're waiting on stormwater, and so we've got a peer review quote at this point. And how long do you think it'll take for that process to work, so we know when to get you on the schedule again?
So the quote says it would take 2 to 3 weeks, but they do need to submit the fee for that before we give notice to proceed.
Jennifer,
Mhm.
is it possible? I know that you were waiting for Woodward and Curran for a few weeks. Is it possible to continue to wait for them, or is it like a first come, first serve type of a scenario?
So Chapter 44, Section 53G gives the commission the authority to hire a consultant of their choosing.
Yeah.
It doesn't require going out for multiple bids.
Okay.
And it is their choosing. Once it is posted, there's only 10 days to appeal that to the board, to the select board, but it has to be
Yeah.
based on the chosen consultant's qualifications.
Right.
And the selected person does have the qualifications.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't think the fee that person was charging was exorbitant, so I didn't think there was a need to look for a second, third bid here. I mean, you know, for the applicant's case, I'd like to get this project moving. You know, I know you're before planning and zoning too, but you get us wrapped up, get planning and zoning wrapped up, go back to natural heritage. You still got work in front of you. The longer we drag this out.
Yeah.
So
We appreciate that sentiment as well. So
yeah,
we will get that moving.
So Jennifer, seems like July 11th is too soon here. So do we go out to July
25th.
25th? Does that seem okay to you guys?
That seems appropriate from the applicant's perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, and if somehow it doesn't happen, you guys don't have enough time and everything else, we'll just push it out one more week, one more session, and so we'll do it early August.
Understood.
So any public comment, 530, 550 Turnpike Street? Okay, so seeing none, we will make a motion to continue 530, 550 Turnpike Street to July 25th.
Spady, second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, very good. We'll see you guys in a month or so.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so next up, we have a bunch of certificates of compliance. There are some issues with a couple of these, so let's see where we're going to go with this, okay? First up is certificate of compliance for 9 Hermosa Drive. I know we had Peter online here, so I do want to give him back because there are some questions about this particular project. So this is I don't know, Peter, if you have the as-built, you want me to bring them up?
I have it right here. Can we see this?
Got it. Yep.
Awesome. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the property owners at 9 Hermosa Drive. This is a septic repair that was done, finished up about a year ago. I'm sorry, maybe, I think December this was installed. December 21st of 21, it looks like the as-built was from. So this is a septic repair in an existing lawn area. The area has been regraded, loam and seeded. And based on last week's site inspection, I would say the whole site is sufficiently stable. There was some question with the existing conservation posts. They were a little loose in the ground. The contractor, to my knowledge, secured those today. I don't know if Jen got by to do an inspection, but everything has been installed according to the plan and should be in compliance. So any questions from the commission?
I had to leave at 2, so I wasn't notified it was finished, so I did not do that inspection. So we would need to continue to the next meeting.
So the one thing, Peter, is I do want to say that that they weren't done sufficiently is a bit of an understatement. The conservation posts, they were done deceptive.
Yeah, based on our site visit, I would agree. The posts were not installed, not even to the right depth, but they weren't backfilled properly. There had been a little bit of cement poured over the top to, I don't know if it was to give the image that it had been more securely installed, but either way, you could push them over or pick them up. So yeah, the plan as of last week was for the contractor that did the work to go back to the site this morning and re-secure those posts. I have not been out for an inspection personally. I guess Jen hasn't either. So if we want to continue this and give us a chance for that final inspection.
So Jennifer, can you remind us what was the rationale for pulling the gravel back from the bank? I mean, it seemed to me that that gravel drive had gotten a little close to that bank.
It looked like it had been pushed into the wetlands during the original inspection. And then I think when we went to do the pre-construction meeting with the contractor and the previous owner, we realized we didn't really have a very good restoration plan once if the material had been pulled out to stabilize that area, and it would, cause some erosion and undercut the bank. So I think we probably decided at that time to just pull as much of the asphalt off the top that they could get, and then put the markers up there. There's actually a telephone pole across the way to make sure no one accidentally goes into that area.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the commission on this? Any public comment, 9 Hermosa Drive? Seeing none, let's continue 9 Hermosa Drive to July 11th, so somebody has a chance to go out and inspect it at this point. That's a motion.
Benson second.
Okay. Benson second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you all. Okay, next up, Peter, is 232 Prospect. So, so the issue here is simply that the applicant was advised to remove some lawn materials and debris from the wetlands, not from the buffer zone, from the wetlands behind her fence. And when I was out there 2+ weeks, actually 3+ weeks ago, it had not yet been done. We continued this from last hearing. We advised both you and the applicant that we meant what we said, and we needed the materials removed, as well as I think there was a wheelbarrow and a bucket and a bunch of other stuff removed from the wetlands. And we haven't heard hide nor hair. Forgive the colloquial expression.
Sure. I do not personally have any updates on this. So I would imagine that has not been removed, unless Jen knows something else. I don't.
Yeah,
Jen has been waiting, just like the rest of us, to hear from someone that it's been done.
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't aware of that, so I have not checked in on that.
Okay, so I guess from my perspective, we have 2 choices here: deny the applicant, make them refile when they've done the work, or we are incredibly generous and continue once again, even though 3 weeks ago we told them, okay, we'll continue once and do this. So from my perspective, I say deny and make them file another COC. That's me. I'm open to hear other opinions, though.
That's what we said last time. I think that was what we all agreed on, because there's a fee involved with refiling, correct? And I mean that's the penalty. Yeah.
Any public comment on 232 Prospect? Any other opinions about whether we should deny this or continue?
With the denial, is it fair to inform the owner of what the next step will be?
With a denial, we have to send the letter explaining why it was denied. Yeah.
But if it's not cleaned up, is there a next step that the commission could consider?
I think Al's alluding to maybe an enforcement order.
If it's in the wetland, that is an option for you as well. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something that could be done. It's not an extensive amount of material there. I mean, it could be done, and it should be done. And for all we know, so I think So from my perspective, I say deny it. Have Jennifer send a letter. If we don't hear back within 30 days, maybe we go to EO at that point.
Agreed.
Which maybe that just becomes another letter saying, okay, we gave you an opportunity, waiting to hear from you, and now we have to have proof that you've done what you had to do. So okay, so make a motion to deny certificate of compliance for 232 Prospect.
80 a second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay. Sorry, Peter. I don't like doing this to you, but.
Oh, I understand. It's our apologies for not checking in on that. I appreciate the 30 days to hopefully figure this out before any enforcement situation arises.
Very good.
The next three will go quickly. So we don't have to show plans. The next three will go.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No plan.
Yep.
No plans, Peter. We're good. 85 Union Street, certificate of compliance for residential septic repair. Jennifer?
Yes, that's stabilized and ready for a full certificate.
The only question I have is I wasn't able to make the site plan since I made an issue of it. Did we pull the seesaw out of the stream?
I looked. I didn't see the seesaw in there anymore, so it must be removed.
Okay, very good.
Signs point to yes.
Sign point to yes, exactly. Any public comment or any commission comment on 85 Union? Any public comment, 85 Union? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance to 85 Union Street.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol, roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you all. Next up is 12 Squantum Ave. I have exactly 0 questions about this.
Yeah, any of the compost that was in the wetlands been removed, and the conservation markers have been in the right place, and everything is stabilized, so they're ready for a full.
Great. Any commission comment? Any public comment on 12 Squantum? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 12 Squantum Avenue.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Spady, a second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Next up is 43 Tanglewood Drive. This is, again, a certificate of compliance for a septic repair. Jennifer?
It's stabilized and everything is ready for a full certificate of compliance.
Any Conservation Commission comments, questions? Any public comment, 43 Tanglewood Drive? Seeing none, make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 43 Tanglewood Drive.
Carol, second.
Benson with the second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
ADI.
Okay. Thank you very much. We got through the Collins engineering portion of the certificate of compliance.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Peter. Next up is 345 Center Street, Lot 2, aka 8 Goodspeed.
They have a number of issues to address. They've requested a continuance to the next meeting.
Okay.
Deja vu.
So they're looking for July 11th for
Correct.
the 17th hearing. We've continued to July 11th. It wasn't 17. That's an exaggeration for the record. I just make a motion to continue 345 Center Street, Lot 2 to July 11th.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol, second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Vincent, I.
Carol, I.
Rossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you all. Next up is some enforcement or discussion for 91 Summer Street. Jennifer?
Eric Diaz is here.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. I believe Brad Holmes might be in the field too tonight.
I think I see him in attendees.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody got him. Okay.
Whoa.
So we have Brad and Eric. Who's talking first, or Jennifer?
I can kick it off unless you want Jennifer to give an update.
Ready for you, Eric.
All right, let me kick it off. So since the last time that we were here, we had just finished up the restoration plantings and we had a completion report from Brad. Jennifer had a few comments that included cleaning up some wood chips, which we've done. She wanted us to introduce some of the woody debris that we had pulled out of the area back in so it didn't look so manicured and kind of landscaped. So it looks a bit more natural. We've done that. We have discussed posting a bond for the project, and we do have a bond amount that we propose to you folks. That total bond amount comes to $35,000. The way we calculated that bond is we took the lump sum of everything that we spent on all the plants, all the seed, and all the labor, and put that in the bond. So what that assumes right off the bat is that every single plant dies, and you guys have enough money in the bond to go back and replant them all, which we all know is not going to be the case. We also put in there some cost for ongoing monitoring for a period of 2 growing seasons, monitoring and reporting, a cost for an as-built plan, a cost to walk the site again with your agent at the end of the growing seasons, and a cost to remove all of the, all of the erosion controls from the area. So that comes out to a figure, and I can pull it up and tell you exactly what it is. But basically, we took that number. I put a 25% contingency on it, which is actually pretty generous. Typically, in a road estimate, you'll go with a 15 to 20% contingency. But we went 25, and then we rounded it up to an even $35,000 right there. So my client is prepared to post that bond amount as soon as we tell him who to make a check out to, if the commission's satisfied with that. And then the other thing that we did, we talked last time about a visual barrier, and I know you, Mr. Chairman, in particular, were very interested in making sure that that got done. My client has begun installing a post and rail fence at the limit of the buffer zone, and I actually have photos that I can share that shows that it's in process of being installed right now. We got rained out today, so we certainly didn't finish. I would say in process right now, but it's dark out there, so I don't know if they're working tonight. But that will be in by the end of the week. So I think we're in a good position. I think we've managed to get all of the plantings in. I think you have a bond amount in place that's going to be much more than you would ever need out there. And the post and rail fence, as soon as that's in, we'll get the conservation markers and we'll put those up as well. So what we're hopeful of is that we can revise the enforcement order, lift the cease and desist, let my client get back to work on a couple of things out there and just move forward as best we can.
Okay.
The only thing to mention was we reviewed the draft surety agreement. So we both made comments on it and we think that's ready to go and be signed as well.
Yes, I am. I know Jennifer was going to make a couple of comments. I have not reviewed that with my client yet. I wanted to get those comments made, but I don't anticipate there being an issue. And hopefully the commission can just authorize us to work with Jennifer to get that signed so we don't have to come back at the next meeting. Because you guys have enough to do on the 11th.
That's for sure. So does the is the fence included in the cash bond, or are we considering that to be an issue that's been addressed?
We're considering that to be an issue that's been addressed. We did not include the fence in the cash bond, thought being that it's being installed now, and bonds are usually for things that are not done yet.
Yeah, but as you've stated, though, it's not done yet.
It can be done by the time we post the bond amount for certain. We can make sure that happens.
Okay.
In the revised enforcement order, you can put a date on there that it has to be done by.
Okay. What date do you suggest we put in there, Eric? Please don't say July 11th.
July 12th. No, I'm told it's going to be done by the end of this week. So if we wanted to go with, I don't know, mid next week, just to give a little bit of a buffer, call it 7/7. Does that work? I think that's next Wednesday. Or 7/6, I think might be Wednesday. Let me pull that up.
Should be the 6th.
Yeah, call it 7/6 just to be safe, but chances are it'll be done well in advance of that.
Okay.
Remember, you got the holiday too. That helps, honey.
Yeah.
So the requirement for the signing the agreement, the surety bond, and the fence installation can all be the same day, just to package that up a little neatly. If that's okay.
I think that makes sense. From my understanding, I know one thing that we're looking for, obviously, is to get the cease and desist lifted. Would that have to be lifted on that same day, or could that be lifted once the enforcement order is produced, saying that having that date certain in there?
I think we had discussed before, once the money has been posted, then we will release the cease and desist and
So once the
sign.
money is in hand, so we can get that done. I mean, as early as tomorrow, if the commission's in agreement with a cash bond, we can get that into the town.
You could do that.
Okay, sure.
In
regard to the total amount, I noticed on the statement that was provided that it was an engineer estimate of the cost of the trees and the shrubs.
Mm-hmm.
Could you provide Jennifer with the copy of that invoice that
absolutely
really
sure.
identify it exactly rather than an estimate? The second thing, and maybe I just missed it, but I didn't see any delivery charges on that. I imagine it costs you something to get those trees delivered.
Yeah, through the chair. That is actually included in the invoice amount that I can provide. So that delivery cost was included in the total cost. And I think and I don't have it right in front of me, we rounded up on that too. So if it was, 14,000 and change, we called it even 15,000 and sent it out. So there's a little bit of a buffer in there as well.
Yeah, I just think the actual is better than an estimate.
Sure, we can provide that as backup information without an issue.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any other commission comment? So I think that the proposal here is to vote to release the cease and desist once we have the surety bond in place. And part of the enforcement order is to change the due date to the fence to be July 6th. And I think that's our drop dead date on this other stuff as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's how I understand it as well, yes.
Okay, so moved.
Carol, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
ADI.
Okay, so so the next issue is to sort of tighten up our paperwork on 81 Summer Street, which from our perspective, started out as an enforcement order or a violation at the prior site. And rather than go through an enforcement order, we incorporate into a notice of intent. The issue right now is that under the notice of intent, you aren't required to do it. You have permission to do it. You aren't required to do it. And I think I'm getting a little bit nervous and a little bit concerned that that's the way it's going to go, that it's not going to get done. And the violation still exists. I'm for the sake of protection of the town's interest as well as our agreement that it would get done. I think I'd like to paper the enforcement order. This is my conversation to the commission as well as to the applicant. I think it's in our best interest to issue an enforcement order, get things moving. They've stated that they will wait till the fall to start doing some plantings. I think they have an existing planting restoration plan in place already. So this shouldn't be a burden for the applicant from my perspective, because they've already done the plans. It's in the NOI. Brad is here; he could speak to it. So that's my thought process.
Can I bring up just a few thoughts on that, Mr. Chairman? Or would
Briefly?
You rather yeah, I'll be very quick. Obviously, enforcement orders are things that we like to avoid, right? And I understand the commission's perspective and the want for something that ensures that this gets done, because I think you're right. Under the order of conditions, there's nothing that's going to ensure that that gets done. Just let me throw out there, rather than an enforcement order, could we provide the commission with a letter from the applicant acknowledging a timeline and committing to get it done by a certain date? And then if that's not done by a certain date, then the commission takes enforcement action.
Could I ask one question? When the 3 lots or 4 lots are sold at the 91, the common driveway, does that also include all of the property that's associated with the 81, Summer, the property that we're talking about right now?
So right now, 81 is its own standalone lot, and a lot of that restoration is going to happen on 81. I do not know that the applicant is selling 81 itself, or if he's just selling the other 3 lots in the back off of 91. So there could be a conveyance issue there that we will have to look into. My only thought being that, you know, if we can give the commission something that they can rely on that certifies that this will get done, and then if it's not done, then there's a definite violation a further violation, I should say, in that regard, that the timeline that we specified wasn't met, and then maybe an enforcement order and enforcement action is more appropriate at that point.
Jennifer?
What's your proposed timeline?
Fall. This fall growing season. Brad, when does the fall growing season end?
I'd say anywhere after September 15th, preferably end of September, beginning of October.
So
we can have everything lined up with the nursery and everything coordinated. And you know, sometimes the Septembers have been real hot. I would like to say October 1st to start, possible.
So
we're not going to do anything now for a while anyway.
Yeah, done no later than October 30th. Just we can start October 1st, be done by the end of the month. That gives us time to get it done in an appropriate season, room to breathe when we actually start to do the work, so it's not a complete rush. And then, you know, if for some reason by October 30th, Jen hasn't walked the site and said this looks good, well, enforcement action's on the table.
What about more like October 15th?
Fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
So here's the other challenge here, and I would like to see this included in this statement, is that the applicant continues to intend to gift the land to us as well as it's associated with 81 Summer.
And by that, you mean the conservation restriction that we have noted?
Is it a conservation restriction or was it a gift of land?
It was a conservation restriction. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, so fair enough. Thanks for the clarification. So, I mean, I'd like to have some guarantee that CR is going to happen, because that was a big part of doing both 42 Randall and I think it was 42, right?
38.
38 Randall and 81 Summer was that corridor that created was quite a significant turning point in that discussion, to be honest.
Absolutely. And just for your edification, Mr. Chairman, I did have this conversation with my client last week after Jennifer and I had met on site to review a few things. And as of last week, we're still on board for the CR. We're still on board to do the restoration. So I don't think putting that in writing is a problem.
Okay. So from my perspective, I mean, you know, it's going to get done no sooner than October anyway. So I am okay with the applicant putting it in writing to us, along with the CR. And if it's not done by October 15th, we go the enforcement order route.
Can we be a little more specific on the CR? Are you looking for the draft by October 15th or for it to be finalized? Because the draft we should have much sooner. It takes a while to get through Division of Conservation Services.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have the actual CR done by October 15th, but you tell me, Eric, when you think you can have the CR done.
I can commit to having the draft to you within 30 days easily. Just so for your own information, we've put together a draft for the CR on 38. Jennifer reviewed it. We made a couple of comments and I need to send that back to her. Frankly, the only reason we haven't done it on 91 Summer yet is because we wanted that one to be in a place where we were all satisfied. So we had a boilerplate to work off of. So I've got them both ready to go. I can get those over to Jennifer's office pretty quickly.
Okay, so let's say that we'll have a draft within 30 days.
Sure.
Any further commission comment? Anything further from the applicant?
No, nothing from us. Just, a thank you to the commission for your cooperation and your patience. We know this one has been a trial and we certainly appreciate everyone's professionalism and especially Jen's help. She's been a great help on this. So thank you all.
Appreciate it. There is no public, but I will ask that if there's any public comment. So seeing none. So let's make a motion to defer the enforcement order pending a letter of agreement from the applicant regarding 81 Summer and doing the replication starting or finishing by October 15th, along with a CR agreement drafted within 30 days.
80 second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Benson, aye.
Carroll, aye.
Rossman, aye.
80 aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you working with us, Eric.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, so next up is we don't have any meeting minutes to approve. We're still waiting on those, so we can go to the next one. CPC committee representative, that's me. And so I just give you a very brief update to what's going on in the CPC. I had that open. Essentially, this is the time of year where we start getting letters of interest from various applicants for next year's CPC funding at the annual town meeting. And we saw about 10 of them. There'll probably be a few more that come in over the next meeting or two. About half of them were recreation oriented. Another few were historic oriented. There's some town hall garden replication to do there. There's a big one related to Oaks Ames Memorial Hall. There's millions of dollars of repair and upgrades that need to be done there. But there wasn't anything conservation related, so I will raise the issue if there is, but just sort of wanted to raise that up to everybody and give you an update.
When are they due?
I think they sort of over the next. I don't know that I've only been on the commission like three meetings, so I don't know the actual due date of them. I think it sort of is continuing this month and next month. I think through August, and then they start formalizing and sort of giving the applicants feedback about whether or not we think it's a good project or what they might need to do, and sort of along those lines. So it's moving them towards getting into the formal application process. Sorry, I don't have more details. Next up is chair update. That's me again. Tonight at the select board meeting, there were 3 applicants for the 2 open positions that are currently held by Mr. Spadia and Mr. Benson. I don't know the outcome of that because we were all here. But at our next meeting, we will actually do our normal annual board reorganization. We'll, depending on whether Mike and Al are here, we'll decide who's going to be chair and vice chair, and then also decide on representative for the CPC. So if you're interested in any of those things, be prepared to speak up. If you have questions about any of it, please reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss any of it. I think that one of the things that I'd like to see is continued growth in involvement by everybody along the way, so that when we have a discussion, that it's not always me leading the charge. We'll all start getting a little more comfortable with things. I know it does take some time for sure. And I think chair and vice chair, I would like to make the suggestion that we probably would be beneficial to the commission to have, vice chair take every other hearing or something along those lines. Or I think it's hard. Look at this type of meeting here where there are literally 15 things on the agenda. It can be a little bit much to sort of keep, and thank goodness for Patricia and Jennifer's work to get us here. But because the amount of information that they give to me and you is tremendous. The amount of time that they spend having discussions with me and answering my questions before the meeting, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of their very, very hard work and keeping me in line and providing with updated agendas and everything else. And the things they do last minute is quite tremendous. And but it is a lot. It is a lot to do, and it would be a lot easier if we can find a balance and to be honest, build some a whole succession plan here, right? I mean, I don't need to be chair for the rest of my term on this board. I'm happy to not be. And it's only been 2+ years, but it's a long time. It is a long time. So that's it for chair update. So we'll do that on the next meeting. It shouldn't take a lot of time, but I just want to give everybody that heads up. So when it says board reorganization, it's a standard thing. We vote for the chair, we vote for the vice chair, we vote for the CPC representative. There's something on here about FY23 MACC dues. Jennifer and I had a brief conversation. It was already on the agenda, so we didn't take it off. But as far as I'm concerned, all of us need to be members of MACC. We should all be taking advantage of the courses and materials they have available. I know I just went and looked up something last month. And I know even just reading the quarterly newsletter brings so much to the forefront. And actually, the conversation we had about what it would take for the voting on 560 Foundry actually came out of an MACC article that I had read, which of course I read the legal ones, right? Because that's my nature. And so that allowed Jennifer and I to have a conversation ahead of time and make sure that we were doing it appropriately and everything else. So it's a very interesting thing. So your dues are getting paid for another year. Please take advantage of everything you possibly could with MACC. Even if you're not going to get the fundamental certificate, all those courses are worth your time. You know, they're only a couple of hours. Some are even done remotely now. You used to have to go to it, you know, somewhere to actually do them, but now many of them are remote, and you should absolutely be taking them there. They will give you a lot of information that you sort of know already, but it really reinforce it for you. So I'll stop talking. It's already 9:15. Duff's Farm update, Jennifer.
So we had already given the notice to quit to the current tenant. I understand that he has a purchase and sale agreement on some property of his own, which is really exciting for him. I'm happy to hear that. But the closing is not until July 21st. And so he's looking to be able to stay there for, you know, one more month just so he can take care of moving and have a place to stay. Town council said there's not anything we need to do, but I would follow up just with a formal letter, just so it's in writing. Whatever the commission votes, Mike did offer to pay the June rent. He hadn't paid that because it was considered first and last. Town council just says, don't call it rent. Make sure it just says it's for use and I forget the other part. Just for use of the property, but don't call it rent. So that's it.
Yeah, I personally have no issue with, you know, letting him go till July 21st at the end of July. So it's fine. I mean, for my standpoint. So we got agreed. I got a nodding from Mike.
Oh yeah, good.
Lots of input.
So thumbs up from Nate. Okay, so do you need a vote from us, or you good to go?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Environmental planner updates.
My update is just an FYI that Southeastern Mass is in drought. That is important for Wetland Protection Act, because if anybody comes in and tries to prove that a stream is not perennial and says, oh, we saw the stream dry, they cannot use that data during a certain time frame during a state designated drought. So you may see some language on that for 170 Chestnut Street, but you don't need to take any action. Just wanted you to be aware that we are in a state designated drought. There was one question about the bench at New Pond. It looks like we're going to the right side of the dam, not on the dam.
Thank God.
Not on the dam, but near it. And then I thought, oh, does this need a permit? Does this need an RDA just to make sure it's squared away? I just thought of that now.
Well, if the state would register our changes to the bylaws, we'd be okay with this.
It wouldn't be more than 50 feet, but yeah, it's a bench.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's just an FYI, just so everybody knows. We're working on the bench. We're picking out the type of bench or have a place to put it. And the intern who's working with the DPW will be drawing up the plan just so we have a sketch of it.
Oh, I can't wait to see the sketch. I hope we get a PowerPoint too.
If you're asking for that, I will put it on the agenda.
July 11th.
Mark 30 minutes for the bench. 35.
Okay, is that it, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay, so I will accept one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Carol would cross me for the second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Vincent, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Speedy eye.
Very good, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.